Hey everyone, welcome to another pre-op Moto. Today we're going to go over shoulder mobility. So we're going to be working on mobilization of the shoulder joint, a little bit of stretching for the muscles, and also some strengthening movements to help the shoulders be stronger and safer while on the bike. So first things is we're going to get down in a kneeling position, so both knees down, and we're going to do what is called eagle arms. So we're going to cross our arms up, being one arm's going to go underneath the other, and we're going to cross it up, and the goal is to be able to get the palms and the fingertips in line with each other. Now, you might not be able to get there, and you might more so look like this, and that's totally okay for starters. So we're going to get into that position. From there, as you can see, we're going to now work on spinal flexion and extension in this position. So we're going to breathe out while going into flexion, and we're going to breathe in while going into extension. And we're going to do this 10 times on each side. So we're really working on stretching the back of the shoulders, but we're also working in some breathing now. And everyone's going to feel a little bit different based upon what's tight. Of course, it's going to feel different. But we're working rotator cuff muscles. We're stretching some rotator cuff muscles, stretching out the back, being the upper back, and also the abdomen when we're coming up into that big extension while flowing with our breath. So we're going to go one more time. Breath out and breath in. Perfect. All right, shake the arms out a little bit. So now we're going to go opposite arm under to the one that we just did. Might feel different. You might be able to get in position easier. It might be a little bit harder. It just depends. So from here, exact same thing again. The fingertips to the palm, they might get crossed up, they might not. It's okay if they don't, and you're holding yourself in a little bit different position. So now we're going to work into our flexion and extension. Remember, we're breathing out on the way down when we're going down into that kind of that child's pose, cradled position here. And breathing out on the way up. Breathe in. We'll go one more time. And shake out the arms again. So you can stay in that kneeling position, or you can come down to a crisscross on the floor. You can also do that starter one in a crisscross when doing the eagle arms. I like to do it in a kneeling position. It allows me to get a little bit more flexion extension out of the spine while doing it. So next we're just going to do cross arm pulls, which is a very old run-of-the-mill type stretch for the shoulders. Probably did it back in elementary school, but what you're gonna do is you're just gonna cross the arm up. We're just gonna pull across. While doing this, we're gonna slightly twist in the opposite direction. So right now, got the left arm pulling across, so I'm gonna slightly twist to the left side. Stretching the back of the shoulder, rear delt more specifically is what we're gonna feel in this, because the deltoid is comprised of 3 different muscles right there. So we have the back delt, also known as posterior. We have the side delt, which is the lateral, and then the front delt, which is the anterior delt. So those 3 deltoid muscles help us to lift our arms in the directions that we do, and also the circumduction or circular movements we're capable of with that. So we're gonna hold this just for 20-30 seconds. Sit up nice and tall, taking some deep breaths. Perfect. And then you can shake out again. A little bit of twist and movement in there, and then switch. Exact same thing. Left and rights are going to feel much different from each other. My right side's definitely tighter. So we're just working breath in and breath out. And if you have a hard time like counting the 30 seconds, you can always just go for a good, 6 or 7 inhale exhales. Each of those are probably going to be about 5 seconds apiece, so you'll get to 30 seconds roughly, give or take. And if you want to hold for a little bit longer, that's totally fine too. Everyone's going to feel different. Great. So first thing, we did the eagle arms. Now we just did the cross pulls. So we're going to go into what's called a butcher stretch. I'm going to use a bench here, and you can use a stool. This is actually even something you can do on your bike while standing with warming up to go ride. But you can use a stool, couch, bench, whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to our kneeling position. So on both knees, we're going to take our object, in this case my bench. I'm going to put my elbows on it, and I'm going to drop myself down and back. And I'm going to get a little bit of a stretch underneath right here in those lats, a little bit in the triceps. If I really want to make this a greater stretch, I'm going to actually bring this hand up behind my head, create a little shark fin, and then take some nice deep breaths while down in here to let my head fall down as low as I feel comfortable, or as you feel comfortable in this position. With all stretches, it's always important to recognize that everyone's body is going to be a little bit different. So whatever is going to feel best for you, you have to make those adjustments while in the moment. Of course, I'm given instruction on what to do, but I can't feel what you feel. So ultimately, you're always going to need to make some adjustments for yourself to get the most out of it. So we're just focusing on good breathing down in here so that we can make sure that the body's actually relaxing and allowing stretching to occur, and we're not fighting ourselves. All right. So 30, 40 seconds within the stretch, give or take. Everyone's different once again. So if you need to hold it a little bit longer, absolutely fine. Go ahead and do that. But we're going to move on. So next thing is we're going to start using a lacrosse ball. So we have a lacrosse ball here. And you can use a lacrosse ball, softball, tennis ball, whatever you have available, but something a little bit dense, and we're going to actually work out the pec muscles here. So we're going to place it up against the wall at about pec height, or you can place it on the pec first and then lean into the wall itself. And you're just going to be looking for those sensitive areas. And while in here, this is nice, you can see my arm. I'm just going to sweep my arm up towards the ceiling, kind of like making a snow angel, and I'm going to bring it back down. So this is an active release, so we're pinning an area down that might be a little bit tight, and then we're actively moving the muscle underneath it. Or active release, it can also be called flossing, because you can kind of think about those muscle fibers flossing back and forth. And you can move it around while you're doing it. If you feel like you get a pretty decent release on one spot, you can head into a new spot and start working that spot out. So we're going to do about 10 of these. Take your time. There's no rush to it. If you find one area a little bit more sensitive than others within the movement, then feel free to just stick on that one spot, and then the next time you can go adventuring for different areas here. So in the chest, though, we do have the pec major and the minor. The pec major runs more left to right, also makes up more of the tissue, and then we have the pec minor, which runs more up and down and is, of course, smaller. And then if we go right underneath the clavicle, being the collarbone, there's a muscle right there called the subclavius, subclavicle. And we can press into that one a little bit. And you're going to get a little more limited on your upward range as you go into that muscle, but that muscle can get pretty tight. So feel free to hit in there. Perfect. So I'm just going to turn to the side here. You can see it from the side now as I do my left. I will say, if you're right-handed, your right pec might be a little bit more tight just because of the use that you do with that right side. It's not uncommon. But left and rights definitely have a tendency to feel different from one another. We're not completely symmetrical beings, even though we have a left and a right. our organs are very offset. So we have two lungs, but one lung is actually bigger than the other because the heart resides with the left lung, making it just a little bit smaller. And then you have your stomach on the left and your liver on the right. So we're not actually fully symmetrical, even though we do have left and rights as far as our limbs and our muscles go. The balance within us is asymmetrical, though. So remember, we're doing about 10. We're searching around with the ball while we're doing this, finding our own tender spots as we go through. I'm going to go one more time. Perfect. So for me personally, right side, very sensitive. Working that in, I am right-handed. Probably use this arm twice as much as this arm when I'm even just picking up weights and bringing them to and from with clients and athletes. But even for somebody that doesn't do what I do, you're probably going to use your right arm much more. So it can get pretty tight in there. This is a great way to release knots, and then you can follow that up with a stretch as well. But we're going to actually follow this up with a release in the rotator cuffs of the back here. So the back of the shoulder, the 4 muscle complex back there. So we're going to keep our ball, and we're going to take a seat on the floor. So first things first here, this one can be pretty uncomfortable. So go at your own pace. If it's too discomforting with like a lacrosse ball, tennis ball does work a little bit better because it can be a little less intense. But I'm a veteran at this, so I'm going to use a lacrosse ball. So first things first is we're going to lie down and we're going to get this ball wedged in this little pocket behind our humerus there. And we're going to feel right where we're going. So if I set up here, so I have the spine of my scapula, which is that bony part of the shoulder blade. Then I have my humerus right here, and I'm going to go right in this little pocket there, which actually is where those muscles intersect together. Internal muscles and external rotator muscles all intersect in there. I'm going to just go in this like side fetal position. And I'm just going to let this arm hang out. I'm already getting a little bit of a spasm in my tricep, so it's definitely deep working in there. And I'm not even doing anything. I'm just taking some breaths, letting myself hang out. If you want to get a pillow to place the head on, that is also a way to make this a little more comfortable. So as this relaxes more, I'm going to pick my arm up now, and I'm going to go external rotation. So the back of the hand is going to reach for the floor above me, and then internal rotation, and see how far I can get inside and outside. The goal definitely, I would say with this, is to be able to get the palm down and then the back of the hand down as well. So the intensity of this is starting to dampen a little bit. I'm on about number 5 of these, and I'm going to do about 8. Try and relax and breathe. It's definitely getting better. Hopefully it's getting better for you as well. Awesome. So I'm just going to rotate around. You can just flip over or whatever is most comfortable and go to the other side. I'm actually going to use this as a little bit of a pillow this time. On this left side, we'll see how this side feels. So legs are up. I got it in the pocket between the shoulder blade and the humerus. This might be too low anyway. And I'm just going to reach out and relax. So left side for me, honestly, this isn't too bad here. Once again, right-handed, a little bit more dominant with that side of my body. It's also the throttle hand, so you might be doing a little bit different motions on the bike with it. So this is relaxing pretty well for me. So I'm going to fall out. Ooh, and it looks like, for me personally, I'm going to have to give that a little push to get it down in external rotation. It's not as intense, but I still have to give it a little more push. I'm going to come into internal, give that a little push. So a little bit more limited externally here, just a smidge bit, not too bad. And then actually a little bit better internally. So I'm just working in and out of these. 8 to 10 repetitions, being back and forward is 1. So back and forward is 1. Go one more time. Perfect. So I'm gonna sit up here. So after doing these motions, so we just went through 5 of them, we did some stretching, we did some ball releases, probably feeling pretty loose in the shoulders now. I definitely speak for myself and say I feel pretty good now. My shoulder tension has reduced quite a bit. It feels like my posture's coming up a bit, definitely from releasing the pecs and getting the rotator cuffs a little bit more worked on with the lacrosse ball. So next we're gonna do some motions to activate the muscles that we're just stretching and digging into. So the first thing is a prone position exercise. So prone position exercise can be a little bit uncomfortable at first if you're not familiar with it. So prone is on the belly, supine is on back. So we're gonna go on the stomach. I like to use a pillow to kind of place my forehead on just to keep my face off the floor so I can breathe. And in this situation, it's gonna also help me speak. So I'm gonna go on my called WYOs. So reason why they're called that is we're just simply making the shape, so it's kind of like a MCA type deal. So my face is down. This is my W. This is my Y. If we're seeing that from above, there's the letter W, the letter Y. And we're going to go with that for total repetition. And 4. Then we're going to come up, shake it out a little bit in between. We're going to do this for 2 sets. So you can do more repetitions if you feel necessary, but we are going to do it for 2 sets of 4. So I'm just getting a little bit loose, getting on the belly. Sometimes can be a little uncomfortable. So getting off of the belly and giving release to that and then going back in helps a lot. So back in, W, Y, O, and that's 1, W, Y, O, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. So after executing those 2 rounds, we're going to move on to the next one, which is a threading of the needle with a band. So if you have a band, great. If you don't, they're very easy to get your hands on. They're not expensive pieces of equipment. So our entire band up to a door, a pole, like I got here, whatever you have access to where you can pull it. You want a pretty light resistance band because we're going to be doing a rotation with it, so we want to be able to have some ability to move it. So with this threading of the needle, we're going to hold the band on one side. Threading of the needle is this reach through position. So our threading of the needle is going to have no resistance. What is going to have resistance is when we come and rotate up and through though. Okay, so we're gonna do this for 8 reps. Drop in, rotate the thoracic spine, and come up. Really good activation of the posterior shoulder on the side with the band, and really good stabilization of the shoulder that is holding you, being my right hand right here. You can see I'm kind of doing like these single arm mini push-ups as I'm going through with this right arm because it's supporting me. So it's definitely working. It's not just along for the ride. Excellent. So let's switch sides. So now, other hand has the weight, or the band, I should say. Try and find your sweet spot. I gotta move around sometimes to find that equal resistance. You should feel a good resistance in the quad rep position though. Reaching through, pull and twist. Two more times here. We should get a little bit tired. I'm working here, and so should you. So this stuff's not just willy-nilly. This is actually quite a bit of work to be doing. So awesome on the thread the needles with the band resistance. We're gonna move on to scapular depressions. So scapular depression means the shoulder blades moving downwards, which is also kind of their natural state. So when we're standing here, our shoulder blades should be depressed and slightly retract, and that's gonna put our shoulders into a pretty good position. However, a lot of the time the muscles that help the shoulders actually depress are weak, and these muscles up on top here are pretty strong. So the trap muscles, trapezius, we have a lower, a mid, and then the upper. And the upper ones are greatly associated with like that stress, like upper position, especially when we're riding like this and we have no neck. So what we really want to do is activate the lower ones to actually relieve some of that stress out of the top and rebalance the strength ratio. So I'm going to use a bar, but you're more than welcome to also use a band while doing this, and I'll show both versions. We're going to do the bar first. So all we're doing here is I'm going to do 5 of them forward, then I'll turn around and give you 5 of them backwards. So we're just going to go into a dead hang. I'm going to drop to where I can actually feel my shoulders touch my ears, and I'm going to pull myself up and away to where now I have a gap. So I'm down in a lazy hang, activating, and pulling myself up and out. And this does take some practice, so if you need to put a foot on the floor to help you out, that's totally fine. Assistance in a pull-up, just in general, can be really helpful. I'm kind of showing my armpits off in front of me here. So you can see this slight rotation occurring, and that's totally natural. Now, if you don't have a pull-up bar, but you do have a band, what you can do is use your band in a bent over position and work that exact same motion. So you can see the arm is up at the ear, and I'm pulling it away. I'm just in a bent over position. So since I can't go vertical, I'm going to turn my body in a horizontal position, which would be vertical to my resistance band. Do about 10 of those per side if doing that. If on the bar, about 10 to 15 hanging. If you need to assist yourself with putting your foot down or putting a stool to put your foot on to help you, that's a great way to start with that one. Next one and last one is scapular protraction. So protraction is the motion forward with the shoulders. Retractions back, elevation, depression. Okay, so now we're gonna work protraction, which is also gonna work a set of muscles called your serratus anterior, also known as the boxer muscles that you might see on the side of a rib cage. They look kind of like feathers coming down the side here. So that muscle actually originates in the back and wraps around the rib cage and helps stabilize the shoulder. So it's a big shoulder stabilizer muscle, but it also helps with that protraction. So a good way of strengthening this is simply actually going in a push-up position, staying nice and tall. So we're kind of push-up plank position. And then from there, without bending the elbows, we're gonna drop our chest low and then press ourselves up. These are contractions of the scapula. And of course you get some core work in here too. So a little double factor in this exercise, which is always nice. You wanna keep the hands underneath the shoulders. They can be a little bit wider than the shoulders, but you want the hands underneath, so you don't wanna be back in this position here with that butt hiked up. You wanna stay nice and flat, rolling through. These ones are gonna be pretty tough. So looking for about 10 repetitions. If you need to split it up, you can do 5, take a little rest and do 5 more. Obviously we're just doing 10 here. So this is a great set of exercises, stretching, a little bit of mobility, active release with the lacrosse ball, help those shoulders get loosey-goosey, but also help them get stronger, because we don't want to just mobilize joints and we don't want to just stretch on muscles. We actually want to make everything work better. So by doing a sequence of flexibility, mobility, and strength, we can work better to actually make these things stronger, safer, and more durable and last longer for our motos. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you like it, you can check out other videos on the page, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.